name is Eileen Bevis, and I'm the survey manager here at Euromonitor International.
And I'm Lisa Holmes. I'm a survey analyst on the team with Eileen.
And today we're going to be discussing some selected results from our middle class home survey across 16 countries, both emerging and developed. I'll be taking one theory. Lisa will be taking a competing theory about middle class life at home. I'll be arguing that the middle class really orient around their homes as status symbols. The McMansions that were very popular in the US as one of the best known examples, but then we'll be discussing more of the nuances of what that kind of an orientation towards homes looks like.
Mm-hmm. And I'll be taking the perspective that middle class homes are much more private spaces for family, inwardly focused, and really designed to keep the rest of the world out rather than bringing them in as a status symbol.
I would like to start by saying that 70% of people say you can tell a lot about a person by how clean their home is. 70% are going to judge you based on whether you have dust bunnies under your bed or, have clean walls. That's fascinating to me that it's not just your home as you can afford to buy things, but how well you're keeping it, that the entire entity of your home is up for judgment, and the people will make assumptions about you based on how clean your home is.
But really, as much as talk as there is about keeping up with the Joneses and having a home serve as a status symbol, these middle-class consumers see their homes as a private sanctuary, a private space for their family, and not really as a social hub or a place for entertaining. This is the case across the board, even in these new emerging market middle classes where we might be thinking that there are some cultural differences. They're seeing their home as a private sanctuary just as those in developed countries are. And ultimately, the home is a safe haven, and it's a place to escape the outside world. It's not a place to bring the outside world in.
See, I think I have to disagree with you there, because fully half also see their homes as places for entertaining or as social hubs for family and friends. So while, you're not running a hostel or a hotel with people coming in every night, the primary residents are you and your family, you're still seeing it as a place to play host or hostess. And in fact, that happens with some regularity. 6 in 10 have family over at least once a month. More than 9 in 10 have family over at least once a year. So, there's definitely people coming in. The home is not a fortress with a wall around it.
Yeah, and definitely a lot of these middle-class consumers are having guests in their home very occasionally. It's not a typical weekly occurrence, but probably monthly they're having guests over. But who are these guests that they're bringing in? Most commonly it's family, but they're not bringing in a lot of the work colleagues or neighbors, people that they know maybe not as well. When these middle-class consumers have a completely free day at home with no obligations, no chores, they can do whatever they want, only 12% of them would choose to invite other guests to their homes and entertain. And that's just an incredibly low number.
But that doesn't mean they don't do it. Hosting social and professional connections, whether it's your bridge club or your poker club or having your boss over for dinner, these are less frequent, 1 to 6 times a year, but they still happen. And in some countries, like India or Thailand, they're much more common. So it's almost a cultural obligation to be hosting your professional connections. And you have to make sure that the home you're doing that in kind of is up to snuff.
The vast majority of these middle-class consumers typically at home are doing the same thing that we all do when we're at home. They're in the living room, sitting on the couch, in front of a TV screen or in front of a computer screen. So they're even within their own household, they're doing very individually based activities, not necessarily always interacting with their family or others who live with them, but they're really, focused on themselves. They're escaping from the outside world, they're recharging. And that's also where they're spending their money too. So a lot of these middle-class consumers are buying the latest laptops, the latest tablets, the latest smartphones, all of these individual consumer electronics that are giving them the ability to be much more private, much more individual, even in their own homes.
Fair enough. But I would argue that part of why they need that kind of escape is because they're working so hard. The middle class respondents that we talked to, they're well educated, they're employed, working full time, most of them, and really valuing kind of wanting to work their way up the hierarchy. I think when push comes to shove, if they were offered a promotion and a salary increase, only 29% would turn it down, even if that meant working longer hours.
Right, yes, and I agree there are always going to be a small percentage of people who are very focused on status, very focused on showing others that they're successful. But as a group, I just don't see this middle class as being focused on status as we may think they are. Only 40% agree that you can judge someone by the appliances in their home. And even fewer, only 1/3, think that they need to be keeping up with the living standards of their peers. So status and comparing themselves with others, especially in the context of home, is just not a focus for this middle class. Really, ultimately, they see their home as a private sanctuary, a place to escape from the outside world and not bring the outside world in.
I'm just going to say that in the end, the numbers show that 1/3 see their home both as an escape and a social hub. So they're agreeing with both of us. Whereas another 1/3 see home as more of an escape only. So that's to your point. And to my point, 1/5 see their home not as an escape, but as a social hub.
Right. So obviously, I think we've got a mix of everything here. And as with any consumer group, there are always going to be some on one side and always some on the other, but most are going to fall somewhere in the middle.